Well, today in Washington, President Obama condemned the Woolwich attack as appalling and horrific. He said the US stands resolute with the UK against violent extremism and terror. But in the last few hours, the American president has also delivered a long address defending counter-terrorist policies like the use of drones.
Dozens of highly skilled al-Qaeda commanders, trainers, bomb makers, and operatives have been taken off the battlefield. Plots have been disrupted that would have targeted international aviation, U.S. transit systems, European cities, and our troops in Afghanistan. Simply put, these strikes have saved lives.
Well, we'll look at the impact of US and British counter-terrorism policy. But first, I've just been getting reaction from a member of Congress who's very concerned about this. Republican Chris Stewart sits on the US House of Representatives Subcommittee on Counter-Terrorism and Intelligence. When we spoke, on a rather fuzzy line, I'm afraid, I asked him, did he like what he heard in President Obama's address?
I agree with him when he says that the drone strikes have been a valuable tool, and it's not something we can take off the table. I agree with him when he says that it has probably saved lives by eliminating terrorists and terrorist activity. I also agree with him when he says that it's probably appropriate for a special court or a review panel and maybe working more closely with Congress or congressional oversight for some of the drone strike decisions. But having said that, there are some things that concern me. One of them being his continued desire to close Guantanamo Bay and to bring some of those prisoners to the U.S. for trial. I just think that's very problematic.
Why?
And, well, because they're not U.S. citizens, and it gives them the constitutional rights that other U.S. citizens would be afforded. And I think that most of us agree we don't want to leave Guantanamo open forever. I just think that, it can't be something that continues in perpetuity. But I think there's probably better options and maybe other nations that would be a more appropriate landing spot for some of those prisoners than Guantanamo.
And to close Guantanamo Bay, he'll need the help of congressional Republicans like yourself.
Yes, he will. As you may recall, when he ran for president the first time, that was one of the primary things that he said he would do. And they tried to do that. They tried to move some of the trials for some of those key prisoners up to New York City. And it wasn't just Republicans who opposed that. It was a bipartisan upheaval and people saying this isn't a good idea, this isn't good policy. And American people just were not supportive of that.
The president wanted this to be a speech that really set counter-terrorism policy in context, a big think speech. Yeah. How much were you on the committee pushing for a change of direction or at least for more clarity?
It's exactly what you just said. It's not necessarily a change in direction, but maybe some clarity. I do think that there's maybe been a loss of focus and that the public has maybe started to question what are our outcomes that we're hoping to achieve there. I know that there's some that are greatly concerned with some U.S. citizens who have been targeted apparently with drone strikes and the constitutionality of that. And I think the president and his administration realized they needed to, as you said, reframe or maybe refocus and bring some clarity to some of those conversations.
The Congressman, Chris Stewart, there saying he'd felt there was a loss of focus on US counter-terrorism policy. So